Lebanon is a country of minorities with no single dominant group. Demographics are controversial. Some minorities are defined primarily by religion and others by ethnicity, although most communities in Lebanon and throughout the region do not necessarily like to be described as minorities. Today, I host the representative of Lebanese mission to the United Nations, Andrey Dyakonov. Mr. Dyakonov, good morning and thank you for coming. Welcome to the UNAvenue channel.
Well, thank you, Ms. Tadley. On behalf of Lebanese representation to the UN and on behalf of Lebanese Republic, would like to thank you. Give you a sincere thank you for inviting us for this talk on this marvelous day on this very pressing issues.
It has come to my attention that in Lebanon, as you have said, minorities are of national interest. If we look back into history, following the assassination of former Prime Minister Rafik Hariri in 2005, a string of additional assassinations of anti-Syrian politicians and journalists even followed. In 2007, the UN Security Council established a tribunal that should discover the ones responsible for these assassinations. What is the current state of events regarding this topic?
Well, let me first say that assassination of the former Prime Minister Hariri was a huge disaster for the whole country. It stressed all of us. The crisis that followed wasn't really, we used that opportunity to unite, to oust the Syrian forces out of our country, and to establish a true sovereignty over our entire territory, over our armed forces, over our own internal politics. So, however grievous it is, we would like to honor the memory of Prime Minister Hariri and his supporters in the cause of national reconciliation. Regarding the current state of affairs on the investigation, we would like to stress how much it is important for Lebanon to see UN involvement in this one. We see the international community that is actually working for the cause, because that is actually important. And Lebanon is fully cooperating. We are providing every necessary information. We are sharing every little bit of evidence. We are working with UN on this one. And we would like to see that as the model of cooperation between Lebanese Republic and the international community represented by UN.
But the political opposition at that time viewed the development of events as a pro-American, pro-Israeli plot to turn Lebanon against the Arab world. Could you say that this was the case?
No. Let me underline yet again. Lebanese Republic is the country of all of its citizens, regardless of nationality, religion, or political views. It is enshrined in our Constitution. It is being executed in our everyday life. The promise is being fulfilled in a political system. So I would say those taking an extreme positions and giving voice to some other notions are doing everything against the cause of Lebanon. We are fully cooperating with UN. We are fully doing everything to maintain our own sovereign foreign and domestic policy. So all those who are giving voice to opposite view are just people from the opposition that using this political momentum and using the voice of international community that's kind of provided for and that drew attention to the happenings in Lebanon for their own political purposes. So I would say those who are giving voice to such notions those should reconsider their position about Lebanon and its future.
If we go a step forward, Mr. Suleiman was elected in the wake enterprises, and he is still presiding the country today. Lebanon implemented a special system known as confessionalism, which attempts to fairly represent the demographic distribution of religious groups in the government. The president, for example, has to be Maronite Christian, the prime minister a Sunni Muslim, the speaker of the parliament a Shia Muslim, the deputy prime minister and the deputy speaker of parliament Eastern Orthodox. How does the system work, Mr. Dyakonov?
Well, first, let me thank you for giving a fruitful insight on how Lebanese political system works. You've really done your homework, and we truly appreciate that such a prominent news outlet as yours is giving so much attention.
But here I am interested in
Yeah.
the recent state of affairs regarding professionalism in the country. It seems that, for example, Kurds and Palestinians aren't included in that system.
We have to consider that Lebanon is the state of all its citizens,
Yes.
of all those traditionally living and habiting Lebanese territory. And those groups are equally, proportionally, and fairly represented. As you've outlined, we have a political system that gives a representation to every group involved. The problem that one might say is a problem happens when there are populations, there are groups that are posing quite an interesting challenge, both to Lebanese internal and foreign politics, as well as to international community, because there are groups that are mainly refugees. And Lebanon does everything to provide them with sustenance. Lebanon does everything and fulfill its every international obligation to provide these people with healthcare, education, housing, and every social right and inclusion opportunities. But of course, we have to understand that in the wake of Syrian war, and in the wake of hostile politics of Israel in Palestine, and in the wake of all happenings in Iraq, including Syria, the possible formation of Kurdistan, sectorization of these countries, all these people, these are actual people with their actual lives and souls, plans. They are fleeing to Lebanon, the only safe haven that they see around. And Lebanon currently takes all of these burden on its own shoulders. We are carrying the most of water in this case. So to give a summary to this, I would say that Lebanon does absolutely everything to include every group that is currently in Lebanon, to engage them in the decision making, in the political process, to provide them with the basic needs. But there is a challenge.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Palestinians are not allowed to own property and even need permission to leave their refugee camps. Unlike other foreigners in Lebanon, they are denied access to the Lebanese healthcare system. Am I wrong?
Yes, I'm afraid you are.
Why so?
Lebanon does everything to provide people in refugee camps with healthcare and education. We are doing that with the United Nations Refugee Program, with a number of NGOs, international organizations, and other countries' governments and agencies that actually come to the ground and provide and assist. So, regarding the issue of providing these folks with the basic with the basic substance, we are doing everything.
There seems to be over 400,000 Palestinians in Lebanon, even over 800,000 refugees from Syria right now, according to the statistics of the United Nations. Did Lebanon provide any specific additional legislation on this topic in recent time?
I praise you on touching upon this issue. I thank you for the notion you take and approach you seem to have. Actually, let me correct you. The number of Syrian refugees in Lebanon now exceeds 2.5 million. Actually, so this is a huge figure.
Mm-hmm.
For the country of 3.3 million, this is a challenge that has never been seen before. And let me say that Lebanon's foreign policy and Lebanon's attempts within the United Nations system are currently aimed exactly at developing some sort of international agenda that will undoubtedly be supported with internal legislation to provide some sort of solution for these people. Because evidently we cannot just deny them entry. But that's not what Lebanon stands for. That's not what international community stands for. But there is a growing number of these people. And unfortunately, the current United Nations refugee system, the current legislation, international treaties on that, the current tools aren't good enough. They're just aren't capable. That's why the Republic of Lebanon has armed me with the task to engage international community into developing tools that would be adequate to what is actually happening now with Syrian refugees especially.
Do you have any special proposals for this year's United Nations General Assembly?
Yes, let me say that Lebanon is working on a proposal. Let me say that we are working to bring as much countries and states in the General Assembly to support this initiative. Let me say that we are talking, let me say that the political thought is just catching up on what is happening in the real world now. And we are trying to understand and to somehow explain to the international community and to everyone around that refugees, especially in Lebanon, but also in a number of neighboring countries, Turkey faces that, Jordan faces that, Israel doesn't face that due to its hostile politics. We are trying to bring the international community to an understanding that the classical minorities, the conventional minorities, let me put it in the citation mark, this is the kind of outdated model. The issue and the challenge for the international community, a huge one, is in the area that is actually not covered, that is sort of gray zone of the legislation on that map. Because Syrian refugees now in Lebanon are a minority, they're underprivileged. They are, of course, because they are not the citizens, yet they are provided with all sorts of substance support and tools for engagement. But we lack the legal field. We lack the common understanding on what these people are doing, and we have to address this issue. We have to address these grievances through the international community institutions.
On the other hand, Lebanon has witnessed a series of migration waves out of Lebanon after your civil war that happened. Lebanese descent live in Latin America, in Brazil, in West Africa, in Senegal, in Ivory Coast. How would you comment their protection? Are Lebanese people around the globe protected enough as a minority?
Since we touched on this important issue, let me congratulate again all of these Lebanese brothers with recent Nowruz, the Muslim New Year. This is a time of hope. This is a time of new risings. This is a time for new aspirations. So I speak on behalf of Lebanese Republic and the government of Lebanon to all these abroad. We keep you in mind. We know that these people are effective tools in maintaining the Lebanese interests. We are closely working with the community Let me say that the ministry that I represent, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which in every other almost every other country is called just Ministry of Foreign Affairs, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs is called Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Immigrants or Expatriates. So the issue of people abroad or foreign people coming to Lebanon is at the core of its foreign policy. We are concentrating on that. Regarding the state of affairs in protecting Lebanese diaspora abroad, let me first thank the Lebanese diaspora and its representatives on fully engaging into integration in the hosting societies. These people retain their identity as Lebanese, but they are fully cooperating. You never hear about Lebanese ghettos in France or ethnic Lebanese brides in Argentina. There's no such thing whatsoever. The substance of our country, the culture that we grew up in, somehow fosters this intercultural communicational skills. Lebanese, when they come to the ground, they engaged at moment's notice. So, regarding the number of countries that you named, we are working with their United Nations representations and with their foreign ministries. I would say that on the legislative level, we are happy with the level of protection. But on the other side, we are also happy with the attempts of everyday practice of Lebanese community abroad that are integrated, that are not willing to see themselves as a minority, as some sort of underprivileged group. So, I hope that answers that.
It seems that this year's UN General Assembly session will be an important one for you, especially in the field of minority protection. Mr. Dyakonov, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And I would thank UNAvenue for this live voice and vivid manner and its quality journalism. Thank you very much.
Thank you.